your knowledge of the term?
I'm not sure. I would have to say it would have probably just, you know, it's hard because I can't pretend like I didn't read that right. What do you guys call it? The intersectionality of humans and non-humans.
Well, I mean, that was just to give some background.
Mm.
How'd you feel about it? How'd you feel about the reading?
It was interesting, but it kind of got me confused at first because I didn't know what they were talking about when it came down to the animalism or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They were trying to equate, like, it seemed like in the beginning they were saying, well, that the police are hard on humans and non-humans as well. Like saying like it seemed like that's what they were trying to get at. Like, okay, in the beginning I was like, wait, it seemed weird because it seemed like they were saying that people would, like, the cops would actually, like, they were including animal deaths, meaning domesticated animal deaths included with, like, the deaths of humans being killed by cops and stuff, and I thought that was weird.
Mm.
And then they started talking about how people reduce criminals or minorities to, or just people they don't like, into animals. I guess that's where the animalism term comes from, and I guess that's where it came from. So a cop doesn't care if you're an animal anyway. That's probably the connection they were trying to make. I guess I just thought that part was a little weak, but yeah.
What, did you have any emotional reaction to
No,
this? Did you ambivalent?
no. Well, I'm 55. I'm 55 years old. You know, I've seen so much stuff already. It's like, you know what I mean? It's kind of. I didn't really have. I mean, I've heard about all that stuff already before, except for the animalism part. You know.
Are you referring to the deaths by police?
Yeah.
You had heard about all of them before.
Yeah, all the cases they were talking about I already knew about.
So, did you feel any sort of way when they included animals as part of it?
Yeah, that's what I meant. I was a little bugged.
You were bugged.
I was bugged in the beginning, yeah. I guess that would be an emotional response, right? I didn't like that they
Yeah.
were including humans and animals together to make a point about humans and animals. It was kind of weird. Do you know what I mean? Like, I felt like they're trying to make a point, but the point they were trying to make kind of offended me a little bit.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so you did have the same reaction. Just thought it was kind of weird. I just think like it's trying to almost say it really was a counter argument to their argument. I didn't understand, like, their argument was very, like, both ways. It was like, okay, so you're saying that cops treat animals poorly and humans poorly, and then you say now, and so you're comparing humans and animals in that context, and then you're saying that people say, look, they're acting like animals. Look, they're, meaning that you're trying to make somebody less than human.
Right.
So I don't know. Like, first you're trying to elevate them to human status, I guess, and then you're trying to say that being an animal wasn't good. So I didn't understand. Like, obviously being an animal isn't good in almost every context because we consider animals a subspecies. You know,
Right.
we don't consider them on the same plane as humans. At least most people, not everybody, but most people. So I don't know. Maybe that's where we're going next. I don't know. I think it dilutes, though. It dilutes the story a little bit when you do that. You know,
What do you mean?
the story of, like, um, it, like, Black Lives Matters. Like, okay, so then we're starting to say, okay, well, animals matter too, and squirrels matter too, and phytoplankton matter too, and you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
it's like, oh shit, okay, so wait, so I don't know. It gets very confusing to me. It's almost like, yeah, you just dilute it so much that it just becomes meaningless, and
Right.
I don't know.
So, do you think that this concept, like the concept of animalism or speciesism, do you think it harmful?
It depends. If you were talking about it in the way they were talking about it in the first part, I would say yes. But if you're talking about it in the way that you're talking about it in the second part, where you're just saying how certain members of our society consider certain groups of humans as if they were animals, then I don't think that's quote unquote harmful. I just think it's used to express a mentality. But when we start saying, well, cops are killing humans and animals, then I think that's harmful because you're doing exactly what the second part is doing, to me. That's what it feels like anyway.
Can you clarify what you mean by the first and second part?
Well, the first part of the article, I shouldn't be referring to the article. I guess not.
No, yeah, no, that's fine. I'm just saying that's a really okay. I want to know what.
Okay, the first part of the article,
what's said in the first and second part.
Right. Well, the first part of the article was talking, like I said, about the first part of the article was talking about how it felt like humans and animals were referring to them in the same sentence, like these cops killed humans and they treat humans and animals very poorly and blah blah blah, right?
Right.
And that's the first part of the article, and then the second part,
equating human and animals.
Right, like making them almost equal because they're using them sort of in the same sentence, yeah, those cops came and they smashed a bunch of roaches and they killed a few humans. It's like, wait, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? You're saying roaches and humans are the same. Do you know what I mean? So if they say, oh, the cops came in and killed my dog and then killed my son, so you're saying your dog is the same as your son. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what it felt like to me. So that's the first part of the article. And the second part of the article was just talking about how people refer to certain human groups as animals.
Okay.
So that's what I'm talking about, the first and the second.
Using animalism in conversations.
As a comparative way, saying, if that's what animalism is to say, oh my God, Brittany, you're acting just like a rabid dog. Or, oh my God, Brittany, you're acting like an out of control, slimy worm, because that's an animal too, right? So you're using animalism, if that's what the term means, to compare humans to animals, and using it in a negative connotation, right? You're not saying, oh my God, Brittany, you're acting like the most beautiful furry bunny rabbit. No, you're using it in a negative connotation,
But also they treat us like animals. Saying
right, because
the way that they treat us isn't right.
Yeah, because we generally don't treat animals very well, right? Right? I mean, we generally in society think that, right? I feel like anyway.
So.
Yes.
How do you feel that this concept of speciesism fits into the bigger theme of equity issues of other injustices or?
I guess. I think for me, like I said, again, it takes away from the argument. It takes away from the story. It kind of messes things up because I feel like we haven't even solved the problem of racism within our own species. We don't even have any kind of equity within our own species when it comes not just to race, when it comes to socio, economic issues and just certain rights and all that. We haven't even solved that, and now we're gonna get into speciesism. I feel like we can't even solve the big, the glaring one, the one that's so easy to see right in our face, and then you're gonna try to introduce this other thing now. I don't know what would happen if all of a sudden certain dogs all of a sudden got more rights than certain ethnic groups in our country. What would that look like? Oh my God, we're letting Rottweilers vote before we let any poor black people vote. You know what I'm saying? That'd be crazy. You see what I'm saying? What if that happened? You're saying, well, I want these other species to have rights too, and I get it. They should be preserved, and they don't have a voice, and I get all that. But there's people that don't have voices, And there are communities that are being destroyed. Right now the Latin American community in this country is under a huge attack, and blacks have been under attack for a very long time. But now, we have all these, people on the margins that are under attack, and we're going to worry about what? We're going to worry about whether or not, the pigeons have a good place to sleep at night. I don't know. I don't know. And that sounds very like hardcore, but and I guess people can have the right to, like, sort of, it does, I mean, advocate for what they want, but it also sort of points out that, like, wow, those same people that are advocating for those rights, are they also advocating for just basic human rights?
Right.
And
a big criticism of the modern kind of environmental movement is that the people who are involved, who are fighting for these things, is like, they just they want to save the trees, and the cute animals, but they don't think about, Native American people, or just Native people in general, or people of color, or, income disparities, and
that's exactly what I was talking about. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now and I'm not saying you should destroy one and save the other. It'd be nice to save both. It'd be nice to recognize both. But I think that, and you don't want to destroy one at the expense of the other, or save one at the expense of the other. You know what I'm saying? In other words, like, we want to build housing projects, like, right in the middle of this place where the last certain type of bobcat lives. No, let's do both. Let's build some housing, some affordable housing. Let's just not build it right where the last bobcats live. You know what I'm saying? Both can be done. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, they're not mutually exclusive, but let's worry about, like, our homeless problem right now. Because at the end of the day, like, in Los Angeles, like, there are, environments that are being destroyed. There are neighborhoods that are actually being affected and destroyed by this, and so, I don't know. I don't know how that works, honestly. And I think that most people don't have any idea. I think most people are just trying to make a buck. Most people are generally greedy. They're not looking out for, our communities have gotten so confusing and complex that people have just given up, and they've sort of retreated into their own micro groups, where we have a few friends, I hang out with them, and I ignore everybody else. I ignore, you know what I mean? And try to just sort of exist that way. And that's not how a community can actually function, right? If there's, like, you're only dealing with 3 or 4 people, or 5 people in your life, and everybody else, forget them. You don't even talk to your neighbors. You don't even try to, you know what I mean? Like, nothing. There's no sense of community.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview with me.
That didn't really feel like a survey. Can I give you a critique on your survey?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you have
what
definition of terms it's very difficult. The language that you're using is very difficult for the average person to sort of figure out. Speciesism and animalism and all this stuff, very difficult.
Yeah.
You have to define your terms first.
So, like before having this conversation, you feel like it would have been helpful to have speciesism defined?
Yes.
Any other critique?
No, that's it.
Do you think that there's a question that I should have asked?
I didn't really know what you were trying to get at, so it was hard to know. It's hard to know that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of seeing. I'm not sure where I want to get at. I just kind of want to know, because I had a very strong reaction to this reading. Like, I got really angry.
It's interesting, and
I didn't know why.
Right.
I didn't know why. I was like, I fucking fuck this shit. Like, no, like, what? Like, I just got so mad. So I was trying, so that's why I wanted to hear what other people thought, because I just didn't understand why I felt that way. So that's kind of what I was going for. It was just kind of like learning, like, think about what you just thought, what your impression was.